my music jam is full of joy.
Arabian Jerry play for us.
This my music jam is full of joy.
Arabian Jerry play for us.
Come on everybody dance with me.
Arabian Jerry play for us.
Come on everybody dance along.
Arabian Jerry play for us.
My time has come.
My glory will shine.
My time has come. Oh.
My glory will shine. What's gonna be will be. Omi ṣàmà tán dalẹ̀ ni.
Ó ti ṣọ́ọ̀jù lágbára Ọlọ́run.
What's gonna be will be.
Ojú ló pẹ́ sí mo máa ti débẹ̀ o.
Omi ṣàmà tán dalẹ̀ ni.
Ẹni tó rò pé kò lè pàgọ́ tó kọ́lé
What's
aláàánú.
gonna be will be.
This is my favour.
Omi ṣàmà tán dalẹ̀ ni.
This is my favour.
What's gonna be will be.
Ṣé Olúwa mo dúpẹ́ tí.
Omi ṣàmà tán dalẹ̀ ni.
Come on everybody dance along.
Arabian Jerry play for us.
Come on everybody dance along.
Arabian Jerry play for us.
This is my kind of music. This is my inspiration. This is my kind of music. This is my inspiration. Arabian Jerry play make me dance.
Enjoyment is unlimited.
Arabian Jerry play make me dance.
Enjoyment is unlimited.
Come on everybody dance along.
Arabian Jerry play for us.
Come on everybody group with me.
Arabian Jerry play for us.
Come on.
Play on, ride on, Arabian Jerry. Ride on, play on, we want to dance. Play on, ride on, Arabian Jerry. Something juju is our kind of music.
Gbogbo èyí tó ń gbọ́ wa, èyí tí ń wò wá, èyí tí ń tẹ̀lé wa, mo kí yín lọ́kùnrin, mo kí yín lóbìnrin, mo kí yín lọ́mọdé, mo kí yín lágbàlagbà. Ẹ káàbọ̀ sórí àtàgbé ètò yìí lónìí. Ojúmọ́ ire, ojúmọ́ ayọ̀, ojúmọ́ àlàáfíà náà ló mọ́ wa lónìí. Ká ti ṣèpètò rẹ̀, a ti sọ àti ti gbé síta wípé yóò dùn ó gbọ́ngbọ́n yóò kàn sí lónìí. Mo kí yín ilẹ̀ Yorùbá, mo kí yín ní gbogbo ibi tẹ́ ti ń gbọ́ wa pátápátá pé ẹ kú ojúmọ́, ẹ kú ojúmọ́, ẹ kú ojúmọ́ mọ́. Thanks to everyone listening to us, no matter where you are, no matter the country you reside. I greet you according to your time zone, and I welcome you to another great time. It's Monday morning on the African Pulsar Radio TV International. It's actually afternoon here in South Africa. It's 3 minutes after 12 o'clock in South Africa, and it's 3 minutes after 11 o'clock in Nigeria. I have the great pleasure to have with me in the studio one of the great leaders, the media giant, and the icon is with me live and direct in the studio here in Pretoria, South Africa. Let me firstly use this time to welcome Professor Yemi Farounbi to this program this hour. So I really appreciate it, and I really thank you very much for accepting our invitation to be here. I welcome you, sir, to this broadcast this hour.
Thank you so much, Dari. I'm very pleased and happy to be with you. It's always been a joy talking to you. I share your ambition to be with you today. I'm happy to be with you.
Thank you very much, sir. We are also so delighted. We're so happy to have you on this broadcast this hour. It is a great pleasure to have a great icon like you. And I really want to appreciate you, sir, for the kind of person you are, that you never look down on us. You know, you've been in this space even right before we are born. But still, we're still calling on you. You're still coming on board, still standing with us, you know, shoulder to shoulder, and giving us the space, encouraging us, giving us a tap with shoulder. I remember I was in Nigeria in August. I was in your home, and you gave me opportunity to come to your house to come and have one-on-one interview with you right in your home. I really appreciate it. I don't take it for granted, sir. And I pray that God will give you more life to enjoy. And definitely one of these days we will bring you to South Africa that I'm going to pay back and host you live and direct here in the studio in Victoria, South Africa. I really appreciate it, sir. Thank you very much for
Thank you.
that privilege.
I thank you. I thank you a lot. Some people helped us when we were young. Some people carried us on their shoulders. Some great men like Engineer Wile, Vincent Matuka, Tunde Oshobi, Ayo Ogunlade, S.F. Ayobon, they didn't say we're too young. They showed us the path. They taught us what to do. And we caught up. So who are we not to help young people? We all have to work together to make this profession better and to make our country and the world better. So it's a privilege. Anytime I have an opportunity to talk to a young man who is dedicated like you, a young man who is focused, a young man who knows what he's doing. So I feel excited to partner with you. So it's not a favor. You are giving me, you are doing a favor for me. It's a privilege to be able to interact with young people like you who are very digital, while we old people are very analog. So a mixture of the analog and the digital will be the better society. That is the way I see it.
I appreciate that, side. I really appreciate your view and the way you actually make yourself available all the time. So we have a lot of things to discuss today, especially the topic we have before us today is the media space at the 21st century. You know, a lot of things is happening in Africa, especially in Nigeria. The what we call media, the journalism in Nigeria is not what it should be. We don't have investigative journalism anymore in Nigeria. Everybody is just doing copy and paste, copy and paste, copy and paste. There is no one that will look at one of the politicians and sit them down and say, no, this is what we want to hear. What is really going on? That is not really happening the way it's supposed to be. But that is just by the way. Let's look at the media space at the 21st century. Is there anything different now compared to your time?
Of course, there are things, there are positive things different and there are negative things. Part of the positive thing is technology. The technology had rapidly grown. It had created more opportunities, more availabilities for media people. Here you are in Pretoria, here I am in Ibadan, and we're having an interview. You will need a big OB van and a satellite broadcast in our own time and at a very, very expensive way to be able to do it. Now technology had made all of this easy. It had reduced the sizes of equipment. The cameras are not as monstrous as they used to be. The cables are not as big as they used to be. So there had been a lot of positive development in terms of technology. Of course, there is also a great improvement in the quality of staff, in the terms of the educational background of the staff. In those days, all you needed to be a broadcaster, for example, was to have school certificate, a good face and a good voice. That was enough. Things have changed now because people have realized that you have to intellectualize. So you already now have a situation in which there are many, many educated people with first degree, diplomas, masters, and even doctorate degrees. So you find that the quality of staff in terms of academics, in terms of intellectual orientation, in terms of intellectual foundation is better now. But at our own time, we were better trained professionally. We were taught the arts of broadcasting, the science of broadcasting, the arts and the science of journalism, we were exposed to the best of training. For example, at that time, you would have been sent to a BBC training school or a BBC engineering training school. You could have been sent to Thomson Foundation in Scotland. You could have been sent to Radio Netherlands in Ibadan. You could have sent to the Australian Broadcasting Commission Training School. You could have been sent to a number of the schools in the United States to learn the art of broadcasting. It doesn't matter how intellectually based you are. There's still something that makes broadcasting different. You have to learn the ropes. You have to learn the art. You have to learn script writing. You have to learn how to manage the camera. You have to learn the concept of the depth of focus, the concept of the depth of field, and all of that. And we had availabilities for us to do it. Today, it is difficult. And why is it difficult? It's expensive. There are those stations now in Nigeria that can send somebody to a training school in South Africa. It will be difficult for him to afford it at the kind of exchange that we are having. Not to talk of having attachment, because at that time you arrange attachment for your staff. You send them to stations outside Nigeria for them to see what is being done elsewhere, for them to learn, for them to make comparison, to see where they can make improvement and all of that. That we can no longer do. So it makes us better professionally trained, but this present generation, they are more academically based. And all of that affects the content of the program. Again, and this has to be tied to the economy. There is nothing about broadcasting or journalism that is produced in Nigeria. Nothing. All the spare parts are imported. All the studio equipment are imported. All the transmitters are imported. All the things that you need for the print media, they are all imported. And once you have a collapse of the economy, the kind of exchange rate where you are almost running 1,000 naira to $1, then it becomes difficult for you to source absolutely the required materials, the required equipment that will make you as sophisticated as you would have loved to be. That is a current problem. And part of the current problem is, for example, Daily Time used to sell 450,000 copies a day. It was the largest circulation in Nigeria. There's no newspaper now that circulates 20 to 30,000 copies. Again, because the cost per copy is so expensive. And because it is so expensive, you find that it is very, very difficult to get the kind of mass audience that you would have had. You talked briefly in your introduction on the last of investigative journalism. It costs money. You have to allow places. You do it on a daily basis. Whatever you make today, you spend today. So you don't have the kind of the resources because of the economic problem. So when you look at it, therefore, the gains that we had been bastardized by the kind of economy that we have. Today, we have almost 500 radio stations in Nigeria.
All right.
We have
I'm with you, sir.
been is that advertisement is becoming difficult to find. One, the economy is collapsing. Two, there are many stations. And the number of stations are not related to the economic base. So the viability of the station is very, very low. They are no longer viable. So they cannot do the kind of thing we used to do. We can do investigation journalism there. We can do the news behind the news. We can spend time. We can devote money to do it, but the money is no longer there. Where I am in Ibadan, there are over 40 radio stations. In my time, there were only two, WNBS and NBC. So they had enough advertisement revenue to be able to do what they could do. We're not talking of 40 radio stations. In my time, there was only one TV station in Ibadan. Today, apart from what you get on the satellite, the direct satellite station, there are more than 10 TV stations. So the competition is high. Unfortunately, the revenue base is limited. So, so when you look at it on balance, what will have been the gains of today from technology? We don't even have the money to buy it. We don't have the money to acquire it. Whereas in the past, we used to have a little bit of money. And this had affected the content of the program. It had made producers lazy, if you like to say so, and reporters lazy. It had become copy and paste. It had meant that most radio programs are just phone in, which wasn't the case in those days. So what would have been again our economic, the viability of the station had, how would I put it, ruined the advantages. So that's our situation now.
Thank you very much, sir. I really, really appreciate it. That's a very, very valid point, and I really appreciate you coming out to be part of this. I really, really appreciate it. I'm not sure if they can help us just take that cock that is giving us some. The voice is coming to the studio. I understand we are in Africa, but Kukuruku is coming back to us very loud. I don't know if they can please help us relocate it to somewhere else. If it can be relocated to somewhere else, that will be great, because it's very loud here. We can hear it clearly. Though it's part of the event. I mean, this is Africa. They must feel the vibe of Africa, but other way around is kind of bringing some distraction at the background. Thank you very much, sir. I really appreciate it. So let me quickly do part of this conversation, which is we have one of the legends that passed on about 30 years ago, and that is Dr. Aisho Pepe. I have opportunity to be part of the great work that this great man doing, because my parents then, when we are going to school, we used to trek for many kilometers before we get to school. So fortunately for me, I used to pass through his house when I'm going to school, and most of the time I used to see them practicing the act. I mean, making some movies and stuff like that, and when we stand there looking at them, I mean, watching them, just at the place where we are deriving the idea about this communication, acting, and stuff like that. I just want us to give us a bit of a background. What do you know about Dr. Aisho Pepe, and what value his life had to the movie industry?
Dr. Aisho Pepe belonged to the second generation of the theater practitioners in Nigeria. The first generation of the theater practitioners included Hubert Ogunde, Kola Ogumola, Ejudu Monla, Durula Dipo, Onye Adejobi. These were the very first generation. They were doing what we call theater on the wheel. They were Alanijo. They were taking theater to schools. They were taking theater to churches. They were taking theater to various communities. They will convert a town hall into an event center for them, or they will take a school, or at the end of every year, they would go around the schools and take plays there, plays that had value, plays that taught the essential critical African values of integrity, good neighborliness, godliness, friendliness, discipline, and all of that. I should belong to the second generation. And you know, the system of training people in Nigeria, there was the deed system. You were articled to one of the big artists, and you spend about 6, 7, 8 years being taught the various dimensions of drama production. You will be taught acting, you'll be taught directing, you'll be taught costume making, set design, you'll be taught makeup, then you'll be taught acting, you'll be taught story writing, you'll be taught dialogue writing, and you do all of that in about 6 or 7, 8 years. Actually, Pepe was articled to Akin Ogungbe's group, and he joined that group in 1959. And he was in that group until 1965 when he was considered to have become a professional. In that group at that time, he was there. There was Jaguar Apolanya was there. There was Yima Aliu was there. They were all articled to Akin Ogungbe. By 1965, he left. He and Jaguar formed a theater group, which they called Apolanya Ogunshola Theater Group. And after 2, 3 years, they broke up, and I think by 1968 or thereabout, he formed his own Ishola Ogunshola group. And because they were theater on the way, they went all over Nigeria, particularly primarily all over Yorubala. Everybody knew them. You knew him for Appreciator. You knew him for Perebieku. You knew him for Ekun. You knew him for Yawa Lalubosa. You knew him for Jomi Joke. And they would take it all over the Yoruba area. And they would take it to the northern part. They would take it to the eastern part. And during the Civil War, they were recruited by the army to come and stage plays to enlighten the burden, the depression that the military was facing in the day-to-day war. So this was what actual Pepe was. And then apart from the stage play, he was also involved in Atoka. You know, they had this magazine that reduced the plays into a photo play. He was very prominent in that. And when television came, particularly in Ibadan, WNTV played a major role in promoting a lot of these artists. I can remember now that the first drama produced by WNTV that was indigenous was a play by Wole Soyinka, My Father's Burden, and that was produced in August 1960. And eventually by 67, 68, they had a daily Nigerian dose of drama. They had Alawada, Moses Olaya, they had Awada, Ajimajasha, they had Awada Keri Keri, that was Ojula Diko, they had Ere Itage that featured Aishu Pepe, Ogungbe, Uba Tugunde. In fact, they had a series for Ogungbe, they call Ho Ogunde. So in television, Aishu became very, very prominent. And I can remember now that the first television program drama we did that was not in the studio, that was outdoor, which we used a cinematic approach. We used a one-camera approach to produce it. We didn't use a Adobe Van, and that meant a lot of editing, but it was outdoor. It was very beautiful, and it was done by Aishu Pepe. And I remember that one of the greatest drama production that we did in WNTV, NTV, but there was Efusheta and Iwura, which was an historical play of an Egba lady in an Ibadan situation to reflect the contemporary struggle, war situation among the Yoruba then. It was also done by Aishu Pepe. Then after that, he also went into video production. As a matter of fact, in 1989, the very first video drama production was by Aishu Pepe and Arumire. It was a film called Echo. A lot of people don't do that now. They begin to talk of Nollywood and living in bondage of 1992. But in 1989, Aishu and Arumire did Echo on video. Of course, before then, in 1983, Udumusu had done Evil Ekanta. So when you begin to think of the origin of the present Nollywood, that is #2 in the whole world, you cannot forget Aishu. And when he left video, he went to celluloid. He produced on celluloid, appreciator. So in every format of dramatic production, Aishu was there. It was on stage, it was on Alani Ju Theater on the Wheel, it was on video, it was on Atoka, the photo magazine, it was on celluloid, it was on television, and then of course it was on radio. And it produced a generation of theater practitioners. I mean, people like Igiripa, Eweje, quite a number of them like that. He also trained them. So it was not only that he was trained, he also trained his own disciples. Unfortunately for all of us, he died at a very young age of 50, and it's now 30 years. He would have been 80 this year if he had been alive.
Wow, what a great explanation there. Like I said earlier on, I have opportunity to encounter him when we are growing up. We are in a secondary primary school then, and I also have his children as well as my mates, like Bote Ogushola, Tayo Ogushola, and the rest of them. And that gives us a lot of courage to become what we become today, because we learn so much from them, from their skills and from their confidence. But so let's look at the time and the way things change in the last 30 years to now, and look at some of the job, some of the work putting together then is still valid up to now. And look at the generation of today, writing stories every day, but it's not only, it's not stay long. After a few days, their story is nowhere to be found. Nobody watching them anymore. Nobody even having interest of having them in the house anymore. What exactly the problem? What do we get wrong between that phase? Between the two generations?
Of course, at that time, we were probably producing in Nigeria about 10 or 12 films in a year. But we have gone beyond that. We've reached a stage in which we are producing almost 30 films a day. And you know, when you get into mass production of film, there are two types of film. There are producers who are specialists in epics, and there are producers, directors who are only specialists in commercial film. They want to make film. So you watch the film one time and you never watch it again. But if you think of epics like Farebi, epics like Appreciator, epics like Aye, epics like Orumoru, you know, it is costlier and it takes a longer time, and therefore it lasts long and long. But when you write commercial film, it is for people to watch it once, and that is all. But if you want a repeat value, then you're going to spend more money. Of course, we've had difficulty with funding film production in Nigeria. We have not really created a well thought out, a well reasoned funding system. For some period, it was the marketers of video cases that were funding the film. So they will insist on certain artists acting, even when you as the director believe that the artist is out of place. He has no role to play. A number of the artists became typecasted, so they play the same role wherever they are. And that didn't help in making the productions epic. But we have not come back now. It seems that we've gone beyond the age of just producing for video, home video. People are now back to producing films for the big theater. And so you begin to have things like Pingorin, things like Birthday Party, things like Aniki Lapo, and you begin to see that they are not just commercial production, they are epics that you will watch and watch over and over. So you are having a new generation of directors and producers who are now concerned about epics. They are concerned about production that can compete worldwide. They are concerned about production that can come to the theater in US or in France or wherever and compete. And happily, we have become number 2 in the world. Happily, almost every African country now have a lot of Nigerian drama, Nigerian film movie production available. So we are beginning to redefine it, and we are beginning to think how we can have a more reasonable level of funding so that technologically our films will be sound. In terms of location, I mean, Nigeria locations are wonderful. And we are already beginning also collaboration. We are beginning to invite artists from Ghana, South Africa, and happily to multi-shows is doing a lot of promoting a lot of collaboration across Africa. So we are beginning to have across the national boundaries artists that are getting involved. And of course, there is something unusual, particularly about the Yoruba. We have a lot of material. Even if you take the Ifa corpus, Ifa Merin Dilogu, Lenny Dilogun, each one has 1616. If you take stories from even the Ifa alone, you're going to have limitless themes to exploit in film production. And if you go into our history, the history of the so many wars that happened in Yoruba land, the Lisabi, the Ogumola, the Oluyole, and all of that. So we have a lot of stories that can be exploited and can be made into epics. So I personally believe that we are now on a new trend that will give you better production that will last longer, production that the viewers will go over and over to watch.
Wow. Thank you very, very much. A lot of people are joining this conversation, sending messages and appreciating you for being here and for all these valid historical information that you are putting in space. Everyone joining us, please kindly join me to celebrate the great movie actor, great leader, media giant, the great one that we know that is always be in the front line when it comes to radio, TV, media space in Africa, in the world. Join me to celebrate Professor Yemi Farounbi live on the African Portal Radio TV International, a former ambassador Nigeria to Philippines, and also the former GM Nta Ibadan. It's live and direct on the African Portal Radio TV International. So I'm so delighted that you mentioned that. I'm just laying the foundation. I'm going to do a wrap up as we are moving on. So let's quickly look at the writing and publishing the book, especially in our own culture in Nigeria, in Yoruba land, it seems like it's not like before. Like when we are talking about like Odujo, we talk about Odujo, we talk about great people that have been in the spotlight, and the rating is not like the way it used to be before. What is causing that, and what is the solution to that?
I think government has a little part in this. You know, in those days, most of these Yoruba books we talked about had a market. You don't publish a book without a market. The schools were a ready market. You didn't go to a primary school without reading any of the Fagunwa. You read at least one in a year. 1 year it is Igbo Olodumare, 1 year it is Igbo Orunmole, 1 year it is Igbo Elegbeje, and so on and so forth. And we also had Odunjo, I mean, and taught us a lot of values. It taught us a lot of value. So all of these were also secondary or primary school texts. So you were sure that if you wrote your book, there was an audience for it. But we've reached a stage where Yoruba is perhaps not compulsory, the readership is not there. In fact, sometimes the teachers are not there. So people are not that encouraged. Of course, you know, also there's a worldwide trend. People don't want to read books, particularly in Africa, which means that if you want to do your books and you want to have an audience for it, you must do e-books so that people can be able to access. Most of the younger ones now read online. So they are not looking for the hard copy. But we still have great writers in Yoruba. I mean, Alagba Paleti wrote quite a large number of books. And quite a number of professors, Apalabi Olabinton, they write in Yoruba. One Abibola, they write in Yoruba. They're there. There's still some who write in Yoruba, but the audience is no longer there. The readership is no longer there. Because if you are now writing a book and it's not a standard text in a school, you are really not finding an audience for it. And you don't want to write for writing's sake, particularly the publisher. They are not going to invest their money unless you are going to do self-publishing. So you find that most of current Yoruba texts are self-publishing because the big publishing houses, they not find the readership because government had not gone out of the way. And it is important, particularly for the government of the Southwestern states, 36 of them, and if you add Kwara and Kogi, that will make 8. If you add Do, that will make 9. They must begin to look at Yoruba. It's a very difficult language to learn. It's not an easy one to learn, but it's a language that can die. It's one of the languages that people are afraid may die because people are no longer studying it. They are not able to write it. They are not able to read it. They are not able to utilize it the way it ought to. And the very foundation of our culture is language. The very foundation of our value system, for which we are proud. We talk of the Omoluabi concept. The Omoluabi concept is rooted in our language, is rooted in our history, is rooted in our culture. And once we are no longer studying our language, we are no longer studying our culture, we are no longer even studying too many things, even our food system. A number of foods that are indigenous to the Yoruba, people don't know it. If I talk of beans now, they only know Waoloni. They don't know there's something called Utili, there's something called Sese, there's something called Perigede, there's something called Pakala, and these were indigenous to all. And the way God created the world is that God created the world as an ecosystem. The climatic environment, the soil environment, the vegetation environment, the people themselves, all of them are interrelated, are integrated. And this will lead to the culture. It will lead to the impact of the environment on the culture, which what we call environmental determinism. The environment will determine the kind of clothes you wear. If it is so hot, there are clothes you wear. If it is so cold, there are clothes you wear. It will determine the kind of houses you have, which was why we are having mud houses there. Because when you build a house with clay, it is as if it's permanently air conditioned. So there is an interrelationship with the housing structure, with our family structure, with our dressing, with our food, with our speech, with our wedding, with our clothing, and that makes an ecosystem and which our books can reflect. So when you stop reflecting out of this, people don't probably know again. There's a difference between Achoki, the one you call Kirijipa, and the one you call Sonya, the one you call Alali, the one you call Etu. You know, these are things you could get from the books, which we are no longer getting. But that is where government must come, because education is a primary responsibility of government. And education, in my view, is the best way to perpetuate a culture, to make it last and last. So it will be important to encourage the writers. I know there is a Yoruba Language Association, Yoruba Authors Association, and I'm particularly aware that periodically people are now looking at even Yoruba orthography, the way you write it, the way you spell it, is different from the way we used to do it. Because when Samuel Johnson and his cousin, Ajayi Crowther, his uncle, when they started converting Yoruba into a written language, there were a lot of things that were based on the English concept of vowels and consonant. You will spell Aye as A-I-Y-E. Now all of that are changed. New words have been incorporated. Some words that are foreign to us, I mean, some Hausa words, some English words are now being incorporated. And that is what happens when you have cultural interchange, cultural interaction. You're going to get the language to expand by the adoption, by the incorporation of the other language with which we interact. And that has been happening. And that is why we hope that government will keep on funding education and funding it very, very well, supporting teaching and the writing of books in our various languages. We won't want to have a stage in which our language will die, because the only way for the language not to die is for it to be written, is for it to be possible to be read, is for it to be used for magazines, for it to be used for books, is for it for the language to be used on television, for the language to be used on radio. In the past, for example, we used to have Yoruba newspaper. We used to have Iroyin Yoruba. We used to have Imanle Owuro. We used to have Ishokan, but all of that had gone. And that is creating a difficulty for those who are literate in Yoruba, who may not be literate in the other languages. So there will be need for an active, very, very active involvement of government, and there will be need for a very, very active participation by private individuals, so that there be a collaboration by the universities, by the academic center, and by centers of research. There's not a new trend in Yoruba land. We now have a Yoruba Center of Culture in Ibadan, situated based in the University of Ibadan. And of course, we have some very, very bright Yoruba directors and producers. I mean, the Tunde Kilanis, the Apollanyang, um, um, Adebayo Salami and his son Femi Adebayo. We are now raising a new generation. I can also let you know that there is now a very active collaboration by the universities with the theater practitioners. As a matter of the fact, in the past, the universities were not only centers of excellence, but they were homes. They were home for the Yoruba theater. In 1965, the School of Drama, now called the Department of Theatres of the University of Ibadan, organized workshop for all the theater arts practitioners. That workshop was based on Amos Tutuola's play, The Palm Wine Drinker. And that was done then, and very well done. And at that meeting, at that training, the theater art lecturers encouraged the Yoruba artists there that you should form a professional association. That was how the ANTP, the Association of Nigeria Theater Art Practitioner, was formed under Ogunde then. So then, there will be more professional bodies. There will be TAMPAN, there will be the Royal Ambassador, there will be Nta, and we are already professionalizing the industry in collaboration with the university. The universities are teaching people, the theater arts people are also giving them the professional tour, the all-round professional tour. So we're looking forward to more collaboration like this, not only between University of Ibadan. There's a School of Department of Theater Arts also in University of Bapemaulo University, there's University of Lagos, there's Castle University now in Southwest, where there's two collaboration between the theater practitioner, the literature teachers, the Yoruba literature writers, and that will assist us in the growth of our industry. It will look as if I'm out of connection with the studio. I guess you are hearing me, but I'm not hearing you here at the studio. Well, I'm hoping that also the Yoruba in the diaspora will get more involved into this. There's a lot to be made out of the film industry. There's a lot to be made out of Yoruba music. And today I can tell you the Yoruba film industry, or in fact the Nollywood all over Nigeria, and the music industry are one of the greatest employers of labor. People who otherwise have been jobless, who otherwise will have had nothing to do. The 3-man band, the 4-man band, the 7-man band, and the big orchestra, the 21, 24 orchestra band, are a lot of employers of labor. And the film industry is a huge employer of labor. And I think that a lot of our aspirant colleagues must begin to see how they can aggregate funds to support the industry, to evolve in it, because it is a sure investment. I don't know what is happening. I can't get to hear from the studio any longer. And I can also tell you that we launched last week a Dr. Ishola Ogunshola Aisho Pepe Foundation, because in his own village, before he died, he bought a large space of land that is now being enclosed in, and the children and family have put themselves together. We launched the foundation, and we are hoping to be the resource center there, a media resource center. We're going to have in that place a gallery, not only a gallery of all the works of Ogunde, Aisho Pepe, but also the works of all the contemporary artists. You can go into the gallery when it is completed and see the works of Ogunde, Aki Ogugbe, Ogumola, and even the contemporary ones that we now have. So we are hoping that quite a number of you in the diaspora will invest in it and make it a big media resource center, which can also double as a film village for those who want to make films of African location, African content, African design. It will be available, and there'll be spaces there for training, all-round training in drama production, in theater production, in film production. And then we will have an art theater, which will be named after Dr. Ishola Ogunshola. I'm inviting quite a number of our colleagues in the diaspora who will be interested in this. I will get across to the producer of this program, who is interviewing me now, although it seems that to be a technical break, the mechanics of how you can get in touch with the Ishola Ogunshola Foundation. As I said, I be a gallery there. A lot of the production that Ishola Ogunshola did, they were in black and white. Then we are putting them together, and they'll be in that gallery. And a lot of that of Gunde, Akin Gungwe, Durola Dipo, so that we can have a mix of yesterday with today, and on that basis project to tomorrow. That is what that Dr. Ishola Ogunshola Media Center will be. And then you can hear a lot of his music. You can hear his favorite one was Kila Ampoma Yushe Ere Ere Lampoma Yushe Ishola Kila Ampoma Yushe Ere Ere Lampoma Yushe. I'm having problem. I'm out of touch with the studio. I'm trying to see how I can get this done. I'll be glad. I know I'm in the show. I know I'll be streamed live, but I want to be led by my producer. And another thing I want the diasporan people to think about, all of you out there, is we need a lot of more training centers, professional training centers for broadcasters, for producers, and mass media people. In Nigeria now, we have unbundled mass communication. We've separated public relations from advertising, media studies from multimedia, multimedia from broadcasting, and from journalism. So we know that the universities and the polytechnics were going to give the intellectual and academic basis, but we want more people to do training in professional training, particularly in an area that as a person I'm excited at, and that is the area of animation. We would love to have an animation training center in Nigeria. There are a lot of things we can do with animation. You know, a lot of our children, they love, they watch the animation films. Even there are adults who are anxious and who watch animation films. We would like, for example, to be able to reduce all the Japa stories into Japa and Yanibo stories into animation. In fact, a lot of our big historical films that had gone beyond the past, we would like to get them in animation. But as you all know, animation is very expensive, a very, very expensive one. The studios are not many yet here. Yeah, we've done one complete animation film, I think about 60 minutes. We want to be able to do more. I personally would like to see training center. There are very big and good training centers in South Africa on animation. I think there are that are related to some in Europe or some in America. We would like those in the diaspora to consider investing in this area so that we can expand the capacity, the opportunity, the viabilities, the capabilities of the arts and the film industry in Nigeria. So I'm throwing it as a challenge to my colleagues, to my friends, to my compatriots, and all of those who are watching me, particularly outside Nigeria, to consider investing in animation, to consider investing in setting up training centers, and to consider investing or patronizing or partnering with the Ishola Ogushola people in the media resource center that they want to do. Well, I think I have to thank you for watching me. I've been on my own. What would I call it? I've been on automated drive in the last 20 minutes, and we have been together as it is from my time for 58 minutes and 49 seconds. I hope I'll be able to join you again one other time to have a good time, to look at what the media is in Nigeria, to see how to consolidate the gains, particularly for the Yoruba, in the film industry, television industry, radio industry, in the entertainment industry. Want to be able to take advantage of the technology. I hope that next year we will see South Africa physically, and I'll be able to do a tour of lectures or species where Nigerians are gathered, and to let you know the opportunities in Nigeria. Your country is still, Nigeria remains a very great country, a country of 1 million square kilometers, a country with the greatest domestic market in Africa, 205 million people, a country that is number 7, number 8 producer of crude oil, number 10 producer of natural gas, number 2 producer in terms of potential of asphalt and bitumen, number 1 producer of cassava in the whole world. We still have about 33 gemstones and minerals available in Nigeria for exploitation. I can tell you that a lot of the gemstones all of you are buying from all over the world were domiciled, were exploited from somewhere in Upper Ogun, in Oyo State. We have a lot of gold in Zamfara, gold in Sokoto, gold in Oshun. I can tell you that. We have one of the best coal in the whole world between Kogi and Benue, and we still have remnants in Enugu. We have limestone, and of course, that's why we have the biggest cement factory in the world. You find them in Kogi, you find them in Ogun State, and now we are putting together the largest refinery in the whole world, and that being domiciled in one of the new deep sea ports in Lekki that we are doing. So what I'm trying to tell you is that there are so many things you can invest in Nigeria. We can all collectively make Nigeria great. We can begin, not with even the large factories and the large industry. We can begin with the small scale industries. There is no local government out of the 117 that in the southwest, or out of the 774 that is in Nigeria, where you don't find a raw material that you can process for local production, for local consumption. You have the market there. And you have observed that when you come to fashion designing, you cannot beat the Nigerian in women fashion design, in men fashion design. We are one of the best in the world. We make the best. And there are areas who need your investment in Nigeria. I mean, let me talk of medical. We're spending almost 85 billion naira on medical tourism, carrying people from Nigeria to go to Israel or to go to India. There's no reason why all of you cannot invest in Nigeria. I mean, you can invest in it. You don't have to be a doctor to invest in medical opportunities. A collective of you can establish one of the best medical facility in Nigeria. You employ the doctors there. It will be managed and properly managed by business manager. These are opportunities that I'd like to see. I want to thank you for allowing me. I think I now have to find a way of excusing myself. I hope we'll see you again. I love you all, and I love my host. Thank you.